Hello everyone, welcome back to just another F1 podcast here on the Apex Motorsport. My name is Richard Smyth and this is episode number 4. And joining me today to discuss the Australian Grand Prix, which we just had, is of course Ryan. Ryan, just sum up the Australian Grand Prix in 3 words.
Land, down, under.
Very clever. That's a very clever one. Didn't think you were going to go for that, but it is very clever. And if we're going to talk about the race in itself, can you describe that in 3 words?
The race itself, let's see. That's 3 letters. I'm trying to think, can I put it into words?
I would have went for very early start because it was for everyone in the UK.
Chat about
It was, I think it's 7 a.m. start for qualifying on Saturday, 6 a.m. start for the race on Sunday, and it was weird having the Formula 1 race over before 8 o'clock. It was great. Give us the full Sunday to do whatever we would have liked, but it was quite an early start. I didn't quite make it up for practice. I think the FP1 was at 2 and then or 4 and 7. It was very early. 3 days in a row would have been a little bit too much. I don't know how fans across the world do it week in, week out for the race, and it's credit to them because it was very tough indeed. But we're going to start off by talking about our race winner. Charles Leclerc dominated out front, and while he was quite fortunate that Max Verstappen had a reliability issue, it was still a very dominating performance from Charles Leclerc. Ryan, just talk to me about his race and how impressive he was over the weekend.
Yeah, Charles, he just sort of did it, is probably the best way to put it. Practices, it seemed to be going more sort of Red Bull favour, and then all of a sudden, bang, 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 come into qualifying. Oh look, there's Charles Leclerc, bang, pole position. I was like, hardly, how? And nobody was able to come pretty much close to it at the end. Then we come back into the race, and I think I seen a stat today. If there was no safety cars or cars stopping on track, he would have had easily a 25-second, if not more, gap to next best, which at the time was Verstappen, and so then he went. So then we have Perez, and look at Perez holding up the Red Bull flag, scoring more points than Max already. Who's the number 1 driver?
Yeah, what we seen from Leclerc was the promise that I think, especially after that season with Sauber, and I know we've discussed this multiple times in the podcast before, but there was so much hype and expectations when he moved to Ferrari, which in his first season alongside Vettel, he showed that. He beat Vettel over the course of the season, and then Ferrari had this period where they were struggling quite a bit, and we're now seeing the Charles Leclerc that Ferrari have said is their future world champion, who they're doing what Red Bull are doing to Verstappen and making Charles Leclerc their next world champion. We're seeing the problems of that. And Ryan, do you think this weekend you've seen the Charles Leclerc that can go on to win a world championship, or do you think there's still a lot of work still to be done by him?
The Charles Leclerc that can win a championship, or you mean that will win the 22 Formula 1, 2022 Formula 1 World Championship? Because it's looking that way at the minute, until Mercedes either do the opposite of what Christian Horner said. Christian Horner said he would rather try and fix a fast car than try and speed up a reliable slow one, which is what Mercedes is doing, and they're doing it quite well. And having the reliability behind them means that George Russell is second in the drivers' championship, and not Max Verstappen. So Christian, you kind of messed up there, lad. Mercedes is going to bring the fight to Red Bull quicker than Red Bull's going to bring the fight to Ferrari. I think Ferrari could walk away with it this year, both constructors and drivers with Charles. Obviously Carlos, he's getting there. He's just not as there as he was last season, but Charles is on a different league. I think it was even on team radio to, was it George or Hamilton, and he's like, yeah, don't worry about him, he's in a league of his own. I was like, even if Mercedes is saying that on team radio, that's kind of funny.
It's a bold claim there to say that Ferrari will win both championships this year. I
think it's possible.
It is looking that way at the moment. Red Bull at the moment are their closest challengers based on pure pace, but as you said, Russell's second in the championship, and I think if after, especially after Bahrain, if you had told me that George Russell would be second in the Drivers' Championship after the first three races of the season with the car that Mercedes have, I think I probably would have laughed at you, because it's one of them. It's something that's gone really under the radar quite a bit. I haven't seen, like, because Russell, he hasn't, obviously he's had a podium, um, but he hasn't had that race where you're seeing him battling for the win. He's he's benefited of other people's misfortunes, but you have to be in the right position in order to get that advantage or make up for what other people are losing. And yeah, Russell, he's had a good start to Mercedes in terms of where he's in the championship. I think that is probably best case scenario, even if they had the best car, because I think a lot of people would have thought Hamilton would have been leading. I've always said Russell. I think at the moment Russell is probably the stronger driver than Hamilton. But yeah, it's very weird to see Russell in second, given what Mercedes have. But Ryan, go back to Red Bull and their reliability. Do you think that this reliability will be the sole reason at the start of the season, will be the reason that Verstappen maybe out of the championship battle? Do you think he's out of it already, or do you think there's still a long way to go? There's still about 20 more races in the season.
Yeah, there's still a lot of races to go. There's still over 500 and something points or something to gain. I think that's just by winning, or I don't know what that point tally was. I wasn't really listening or reading properly because my brain doesn't work like that. But there's still so many points up for grabs, and even if it does go to the point of, if Verstappen wins 3 consistently now, say Charles has an unfortunate mistake that, well, let's say we go to Monaco again and the same thing repeats itself, history repeats itself again for what, a third, fourth time? Because fourth time where he doesn't actually race in his own home GP. Well, there's a nice 25-point gain with no points to Leclerc. We could see Leclerc maybe get an unfortunate penalty. We could see them needing to take a third engine at some point. A fourth engine, I suppose, and they have to start at the back or take a big engine penalty, stuff like that. We don't know how this season's going to play out. Ferrari at the minute is at the forefront. Red Bull's just there or thereabouts. If they could get the reliability problems, it seems to be fuel issues. Whatever's happened, obviously they focus too much on getting the aero package right and the engine right, but within the engine they've got everything else going well apart from fuel. So they need to sort this fuel issue out, and then they will be pretty much set for the rest of the season. Mercedes don't have a clue what they're doing over there. It's kind of weird. They decided to go from what everyone else was racing with the big side pods, to having literally nearly next to no side pods, and now they're sticking with that, trying to make it work. And it is slowly working as they tweak a few things, but it doesn't help their customers, the likes of Williams and Aston Martin, who seems to be the slowest car on the grid in terms of points right now, because Williams got a point because of Alex Albon. But yeah, it's I don't know what way to go with this season. I do think Red Bull more than likely eventually will have the upper hand. I think they might come through, but I think Ferrari's going to have the upper hand pretty much the majority of the first half up until the summer. Well, I suppose the summer break.
At the moment, Leclerc is on 71 points out front. Verstappen's down to 6th and 25. Now that's a difference of 46 points. So that's 2 race wins, and 2 DNS for Leclerc difference. And you could look at that going, well, actually, Verstappen's only 5 points ahead of Esteban Ocon, and Verstappen should be much further ahead than that. But even Sainz is 41 points away from Leclerc. Sorry, Perez, 31 points, 41 points away from Leclerc out front. So this dominance from Leclerc in these early stages, while Red Bull is struggling with reliability, Mercedes are struggling with the car overall, it's allowing him to get a good standing. And even if it gets to the stage where he finishes second every race and Verstappen wins, it could reach a point where that points difference won't make any difference, and Leclerc will have it easy out front and just needs to get on the podium every week. It's kind of going back to that we spent the whole hybrid year trying to get a close championship battle. We had the closest championship battle you could probably ever have, and then we're now back to the scenario where one driver's dominating, but at least it's someone different. And it's nice to see Leclerc fighting. It's nice to see Ferrari back after the struggles. We've already touched on Mercedes a little bit, Brian, but they look a lot better this weekend. They're still not quite the Mercedes that we know, but they're much better, and to the point where if we're talking about the top three teams, we're starting to include Mercedes in there. It's between them and McLaren at the moment, I think. But I think with the drivers Mercedes have, they just aids that just a little bit. Do you think, Brian, that now, especially with a lot of upgrades coming at Imola, that's what Mercedes have been saying, this 3 races, Bahrain, Saudi and Australia, with the car they had, they got the maximum they could have, and they should be content with their performances in those 3 races.
The first race of the season, I think they should be quite content with how it went, considering they know they have not particularly the fastest car, or what they were used to. Second race, what happened? Lewis, well, I can't mind what the stat was, but it's the first time he never made, Q2 or Q3 in forever. He just had a big slump. So whatever happened that race really didn't help him, but he did claw back eventually, and he managed to get himself well up. But Mercedes, I think, will come back quite strong. Obviously, they've got a big division of specialists behind them, a lot of which actually went to Red Bull. Well, in the engine department anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But an engine doesn't build a fast car; everything else does. And at the end of the day, it does all come down to the driver, whether they can keep it on track or keep it out of the barriers. Nicholas Latifi, and yeah. Oh, sorry, I had to laugh. It was too funny. But no, I think Mercedes has one of the best driver pairings you could possibly get in terms of skill, long-term skill, which would be Lewis, upcoming skill, which would be George, because obviously they can't get Leclerc, they can't get Lando, and I do feel George was always probably better than Lando. I say probably, he is better than Lando, it's just he has the faster car now, and he can finally show and challenge for those podium positions and possibly a race win at some point later in the season. It is coming. Mercedes will do something, and I get a feeling it's going to happen at Silverstone, which isn't actually that too far away either.
Nope.
So, because it's pretty much written in the stars now that Lewis usually wins it, but sure, he's not. He probably won't win it, so George could end up winning it, and if not, we could see the other Briton of Lando Norris take it, which is quite cool, that's to say the least. But I do think Mercedes are on the up. Give them another 4 races, and I'd say we'll be seeing them right on the tail end of Red Bulls, if not passing them.
Yeah, you said there about Silverstone, there's still the possibility that we could have a British 1, 2, 3 in the podium if Ferrari and Red Bull both have difficult weekends. It is possible. Something that going into the season seemed quite realistic and was probably expected in most parts, but obviously the way the season has unfolded so far, it looks less likely. But McLaren looked a lot better this weekend. I think you agree with that, Brian. They've struggled, partially due to the same problems Mercedes are having. Their engine isn't quite there. But then, as you said, it's not just the engine makes the car go fast. And I think McLaren showed this weekend that they have the potential within the team to turn this season around and can fight for at the front of the midfield and fight for podiums. And especially with the European season, obviously last year they had great success, the likes of Monza, where they took a 1-2, the only team to take a 1-2 throughout the entire season. did help that Verstappen and Hamilton did collide. But for McLaren, it's great to see them turn their season around, because there was every possibility that could have went back to like the old Honda days where they were struggling down the back of the grid. But Ryan, what did you make of both Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo and McLaren overall this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend it was pretty solid performance. We seen it quite smooth actually. We didn't really hear much of it. There was no real big battles. There was no real issues overall. Qualifying was quite normal, I would suppose. There was no real anger. There was no real over expectations. It was just sort of, oh, that's actually really decent for them for once. That's okay. And then we go into the race and they get a 5-6, well, P5, P6, which is solid again. I do feel a wee bit bad for Ricciardo because I knew this was his home race and he probably wanted to do a wee bit better. But considering the car and the way it was going, and the fact that they're not probably going to let Daniel go past Norris for no reason. Also, in the last 2 laps, he was warned that Lando may lose power, so it's best just to stay behind him and not challenge him in case he loses power. That seems to me like team orders trying to hide that it's not team orders. Whoa, conspiracies. No, I think if there was issues, it is the right call to make. But I do think there might be something else behind it. But I think Daniel's a wee bit more comfortable now. It took him too long, far too long last season to get sort of familiar with the car. I have to admit he took far too long. He took more than 3/4 of the season before he was finally pumped up, ready to go, full guns blazing, as I say it would be, where Lando was just sort of consistent. This season, different. Just very bad start from all the teams under the Mercedes power units, but they've managed to claw out of that bottom 14, as it pretty much was. But that race there, quite solid. Decent points, gets them well up in the constructors, gets them well up in the drivers. Just overall, it's just pretty decent. There's nothing really else to say.
And going into this weekend, we found out that there was going to be 4 DRS zones at Albert Park. Obviously, over the course of the weekend, that was reduced down to 3. Now, I just want to get your thoughts on the whole DRS in general. Did we need 4 zones, or was that too many? Do you think that possibly it's something that, given Formula 1 are trying to move away, trying to improve overtaking with the design of the cars, that the 4 DRS zones was a lack of confidence in these changes?
Not even that. I think 4 is just a bit too much. Yes, there is times where you're sitting there and you're like, I wonder if that corner had a DRS zone, would it make it a wee bit more interesting? But 4, that's a bit overkill. Like, most tracks have 2, and then to have 3 sometimes is a lot, but to have 4, yeah, I think that is overkill. And Albert Park's not exactly the biggest place. Yes, obviously they made modifications, and I suppose they've had 2 years to do it, so perfect timing. But I think 4 is just too many, especially with the ability now. These cars are sort of following a lot easier, but DRS doesn't always have that great benefit of effect like we seen last season. Obviously, DRS gives you an extra roughly maybe 12 kph, kilometers per hour, which is what, about 5.5, I don't know what it is in miles per hour. It's somewhere in and around there. But that's enough to get past someone or to gain a considerable amount of time. But if you have a DRS train now, with all these cars pretty much behind one another anyway, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having DRS zones. So what happens then? It's just a constant DRS train the whole way to the line? No, nobody wants to see that. The only time it really gets broken up is pit stops and accidents and VSCs, because sometimes it's based off their fastest laps, so some people might gain an extra couple of tenths, some people might lose a couple of tenths. Yeah, I've sort of lost my train of thought here, but I just know we're talking about DRS zones, and that DRS zones 4 is too many. It's simple.
Yeah. We'll move on now to our predictions.
No.
I mean, it wasn't the worst weekend in points. You had a 2-1 lead going into the race, and we were actually level 3-all at the end of the Australian race. I predicted Charles Leclerc on pole position, which happened, and I also got a point from being on the podium.
Yeah.
And then you also get a point for him being on the podium as well.
Easy point.
Both of us helped there by our more lenient choice of the drivers on the podium at all. If we predict them a race win or either podium spot, if they're on the podium, we get a point. Unless they win the race, we have to be exactly correct there. So Ryan, the next race is Imola. It's 2 weeks' time, and it's actually at a sensible time for us to watch.
2:00.
Yeah, who you gonna put? Who do you think's gonna take pole position?
Wow. You see, I wasn't actually really thinking who was gonna go on pole because I was sitting trying to think what my prediction was. I can't even mind what we call them now.
The bold
A
wild
card. I
card
was trying to think
prediction.
what my wild card was last week. Can't even remember. Imola, new season. Right. Nice track. Good track. Race car on top of race car track. Okay. I'm gonna stick with it like I did last week, just for the simple fact that it is sometimes a wee bit more high speed, but not always. But I said it last time. I said it again. I'm gonna regret this. I'm gonna live with my regrets. I'm gonna say it is going Max Verstappen.
Okay, I'm gonna stick with my prediction, same as last time, with Charles Leclerc.
There's a point for you.
You never know. Race 1, Ryan. Who is gonna take top honors?
Top honors. Mick Schumacher. I mean, let's see.
It's possible. Any driver in the grid, you have to win. You have to finish. So.
See, I'm getting this weird feeling that Mercedes is gonna do well here, and I don't know why.
Okay.
But I don't think
Okay.
they're taking wins. No. Definitely
Okay.
podiums, which we'll get onto. So I'm gonna go with the other Red Bull that seems to be slightly more reliable, of Sergio Perez.
Okay. Yeah.
Unlikely. I think it's still going the way you're gonna predict, which I'm gonna predict that you're going to predict. A red
Yes.
driver with the number 16 on his
Yes.
car.
Yes.
Oh,
From
well,
Monaco, it is Charles Leclerc.
Yeah. I like
So podium, I'll go first in this one. I'm gonna go Verstappen, Hamilton.
Well, if
I'm
Perez
assuming
wins,
you're gonna have a
which
Mercedes driver on
I
here
suppose
as
he's
well.
already technically there, but obviously I know he's not gonna be there. Quite predictable for me to say. Now, whether the second Red Bull of Verstappen is there, but I do feel that Max might actually take this race, which defeats the whole purpose of me including.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you put him on the podium and he wins, you still get a point.
Two Red Bulls to one Ferrari whenever Ferrari's more dominant. We're going for a double bull, but one red.
Love the way there's more. Love the way there's more thought put into these predictions than there is the entire podcast. It's brilliant. Just shows how.
Rambled it about this time of night. I'm on relax mode. My brain doesn't work like that.
So fastest lap, I'm gonna go with a bold prediction of Esteban Ocon because why not?
Yeah, that's not happening. Begged to see if he could
Who
get
you
the
putting
fastest
there?
lap, which is obviously Leclerc. Begged. Can we go again? Can we go for the fastest lap, guys? No, you are okay. There is nobody. There is nobody faster than you. Oh, I like what I see now. Oh.
Wildcard prediction time. I'm struggling for mine. Usually the first thing that comes to the top of my head.
Right, let me get up.
I'm gonna go every car finishes the race.
Real quick. Max number, well, we don't have 99 anymore, so we'll go up to 89 numbers. Who's the closest driver to 57? Who's the closest driver to... Okay.
55 Sainz.
Carlos Sainz. Oh wait, that defeats the whole purpose. Oh wait, no, I can spin this. I can spin this.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz. DNF. DNF.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
And if I was to do
Yeah.
it again, it would have been 28.
It happened last time, so it is totally possible.
And I don't know who's closest to 28. And I don't know who's closest to 28.
Probably Ocon 31.
What's Joe's number?
It's 24.
Oh. Of course, Wikipedia gives me the biggest
Yeah,
one.
Granny Joe's 20.
Class.
Yeah, and you'll see some
Oh, well, at least
classics
I have
like
the numbers now, so
Nico
28,
Rosberg and Nicholas
28.
Latifi with their same race number.
So 28. Another one of Red Bull's failed proteges. And if I had clicked
Love
that
a
one,
throwback there, but yeah.
Past de Maldonado.
Yeah, well, well, Brendan
Yeah,
Hartley's
he's
done
done
quite
well.
well for himself in 24 Hours Le Mans.
Yeah.
So outside of Formula 1, he has done quite well. But Ryan, I think that's going to bring
Oh,
this
no.
podcast to close.
What did I
You've got
say
any
last
final
time?
comments before I round it out? We still
Safety cars.
we still haven't thought of
Yeah.
it. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot we were doing that prediction this year. Safety car.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go 0 because every car
Fair enough.
finishes.
Well, there could still be a safety car. Someone might get caught in the gravel, get stuck, but get out, and they might blip on screen for like half a second. Safety car over a VSC or something silly like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
debris.
with 3. Well, 3 is like. I like how I have to try and explain myself. 3 is 2, but 1 full safety car. So 2 VSCs and 1 full safety car is what I mean. Yeah, I'm just confusing it, but essentially I mean 3. So if it flashes
Okay,
up 3 times,
I'm gonna look back at these.
You know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 So yeah. Have you got? Well, we still need to work out what, because obviously we've got no Nikita Mazepin this year, so we need to try to work out your final comment.
I
We'll
got
put that
something real
back to
quick.
the next race again, as we have the previous 3 podcasts.
I got
But
something
yeah,
real quick.
Go for it.
Aston Martin in points.
Okay. Okay.
That's the new
Um,
thing. The Aston's in the points. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, and then we'll have the entire grid scoring points. All the teams at the very least. But yeah, I said that's going to bring this podcast to close. If you're watching this on YouTube, then give it a like, subscribe, comment below who you think is going to win this weekend, or not next week. Next weekend's race in Imola. We have a little bit of a break now. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I think you follow or subscribe on here. And in the show notes there'll be links to all our social media platforms and of course our YouTube channel and our website. We're doing a little bit of work on the website to make it a much more enjoyable experience for all you that like to read the stuff over there. But yeah, we're going to have content coming up over the next few weeks on YouTube, covering everything Formula 1. As you can probably tell by now, that's primarily what we do. But yeah, once again, thank you for joining me. Thank you all so much for listening, and we hope you can join us in the next one. Goodbye.